Okay, welcome to another video. Today we're going to have a look at a Kellenberger universal grinder. This is a model 1500U. This is the largest one that Kellenberger made at this point. You see currently I have it set up in the internal grinding mode. I have the wheel head assembly spun around to do a ring that I have mounted on the chuck. The work head is live right now, meaning that it's going to rotate that chuck. It's also capable of dead spindle or center type grinding. Mounted here on the headstock is a sine bar. Inside the spindle is a number 5, Morse taper 5 taper. On your tailstock you have a number 4 Morse taper. And as you can see, this machine has factory riser blocks on the accessories and on the headstock and tailstock, as well as on the column, wheel head column. So those of you who know about Kellenbergers or own Kellenbergers know what they are, and for those of you who don't, this machine is made over in Switzerland, in St. Gallen, the French-speaking section of Switzerland, and I've been there myself. So let's go ahead and turn this on. It's currently wired for 460 volts, 480 volts. Start our hydraulics now. Bear in mind, this ID spindle unit is driven off the same motor that drives the grinding wheel. Unless you're actually doing an operation where you are grinding externally and then swinging it around and doing ID, most people will take this belt off so that this spindle doesn't run constantly as the external wheel. As with most ID spindles, it's kind of noisy. Well, that's your spindle there. This is your table control. This is automatically disconnected when you go into a feed rate. This has 2 ratios, a coarse and a fine, as well as your in-feed hand wheel. By pulling out this knob, you have a coarse and a fine for manually moving the slide in and out. This is the main lever that starts the cycle. Over here you have some electrical controls to start the hydraulics and the spindle, your emergency stop. So as I go through my first click over here, I start my work head, and here is the control for the speed of that. And you see I have my stop set up here. Each reversal I'm feeding. Have a little bit of a dwell. Now I'm simulating doing a grind, and as you know, if you do ID grinding, that you would not want your end of your cycle, the automatic cycle like this machine has, for this head to go back while you're inside that ring there and cause a crash. So you always have to set this in the mode specifically dedicated to ID grinding so that doesn't happen. When the cycle is over and the spark out happens, only the amount of in-feed, say 5 or 6 or 10 thousandths that you took off, will that retract. And then you manually have to come out of the bore by hand, and then you can go on from there. So that's the end of that cycle. It sparked out, it retracted, the hand wheel went back to your original position. I'm going to go ahead and shut this off now. Let that run down. Now to take the belt off of this is pretty easy. There's 2 screws on the side that loosen the spindle housing clamp. Just slide it forward a little bit and just take the belt off and hang it someplace if you're not going to be using it. Or you can just work it off the pulley. All right, so over here you have your tailstock. This is equipped with a fine taper adjustment. That means that if you're not grinding a taper and you just want to adjust a taper in a cylindrical part, you can take out small amounts of taper right at the tailstock rather than moving the table. So this being a 1500, it's pretty big. Normally you need to take the tailstock off if you're going to spin this. Okay, we had to stop that video because we ran out of time, and I want to go over this carefully. So you see possibly that I've removed the chuck now, and we're going to turn this spindle around. Being as this is the big 1500, you've got enough room to do that. Oftentimes you have to take the tailstock off in order to swivel the head. So up on the top of the wheel head here, you've got a couple of clamping levers now that I would lock that down. And of course you could put this in any angle you want, as well as any angle you'd really want to put the headstock in. People use this machine in this fashion with a face grinding wheel, which is an accessory or an option on these machines. And I'm not going to lock it for now because I might want to turn it again. And of course this also has the option that it can go up and down, which they use for grinding certain kinds of tools and stuff like that. Not too oftenly done, but it can do it. So if you want to come over here a little closer with the camera, I'm going to show you something with the headstock. As we were rotating our chuck, this is our drive here. This allows the whole mechanism to turn with your Morse taper number 5 spindle. When you want to go to a dead center, you loosen this little lug here and move it up out of the way and tighten it again so that this can spin independently. And then there's a locking pin in the back here that will lock the spindle so it doesn't rotate. At some point it'll lock in there. Okay. Then we have, I have a center here with a number 5 sleeve to a number 2 Morse taper reduction sleeve that you can put in here now. And you would mount a drive pin or dog or make some kind of homemade fashion, and this would be how you would drive between centers. So let's start off the machine again. Here's our spindle. Now, I was telling you about the rapid approach that you could do if you work this machine by hand. Got a dead stop here on the top of the deck, your 0 stop. And in the high ratio, this brings this head in a lot quicker. I had it out far for the ID grinding. Now you want to put this back in. So this knob here, this selector here, allows you to select to work this by hand. As soon as you go into one of the automatic modes, there's an electronic clutch here that locks. You've got plunge and you've got traverse grinding with feeding on this side, and traverse grinding with feeding on that side, or traverse grinding with feeding on both sides. Or you can put it in a hand position where you can turn this by hand. You have a fine feed knob on the side of this for very fine adjustments. In the center here, you've got a ring collar that has a proximity switch to start your fine feed. So there's a lot of things going on with this hand wheel. I'll put it into automatic plunge. I'll turn my table off, and we come in. My headstock starts turning immediately, but the wheel spindle didn't come in because I still have it set on ID. So I want to change this setting here from the I to the A. And they have a safety here, you can lock that. So in the A position, now I'm going to be able to have my rapid in and out with the cross slide. So now that comes in, and we start to feed. When we get to a certain point, right there, we're going to go into the fine feed, which is adjustable by this knob here. Now this machine is equipped, or can be equipped, with an in-process gauge like a Marpost or a Movomatic. Does not have one currently, but it can be put on it. And that's why they have the fine feed and the coarse feed and this little symbol up here to switch between the two. So that was your plunge grind cycle. Headstock comes on automatically. Your feed starts. Takes a couple of seconds. Now these levers here, this allows me to stop the feed and maybe take the slide and go out and measure my part and then come back in and say, okay, I'm all right, or make an adjustment and then start feeding again. That's a nice option. Pushed the other way, it allows the feet to move rapidly so that you get down to your workpiece. Or if you were traversing a long part and you wanted to get close to it, you could rapid it in. And this is a lock. This allows you to lock the hand wheel so it can't move. Okay, so this will be the third installment of this video. So we did a couple of plunge cycles. Now I'm going to open this up and shut my feet. First thing, you have to take it from the plunge feed mode and put it into a traverse mode. Otherwise, the hand wheel is just going to continuously feed. We want it to increment. All right, so I'm going to put it so that it feeds on both sides when I come in. So here you see. I'm shortening that up a little bit. It's a big feed. I've got the increment turned up. You could lower that quite a bit. It's almost a tenth, even less. But just for the video, we want to go fast. Okay, then we get down to our fine feed, and the feed is less. Again, the fine feed is adjusted here. Now it's taking forever. Like I said, if you wanted to rapid that down to 0, I could just do this, being as I don't have a part in here. Then, once it gets to the 0, if I left my stop on, it'll start the process of the spark out. It'll always stop on one of the reversal stops. It won't stop in the middle of your workpiece. It'll wait till it's at the end to the left side or the right side. And that's the end of that cycle. So that's the Kellenberger 1500U. There is a nice large paper band filter coolant system that goes with this machine. I don't know if I mentioned we got 460 volts, 480 volts, and I think that's about it. Thank you very much.